Hello and welcome. My name is Rachel Brinke. I am the head attorney and photographer at TheLawTog, the go-to legal resource for photographers. Today, you're in for a treat. I'm going to try to make this as fun as it can be, but the reality is we need to know how to operate a legal and effective photography business. We want to protect you. We want to protect our clients. We want to protect our livelihood, protect our future. So it's not necessarily sexy and fun, but guess what? Neither is getting sued or simply just having customer service problems. So again, my name is Rachel Brinke, and I truly believe that entrepreneurship is a way of life, but it should not be your entire life. I value quality of life over business, so all of my suggestions I'm going to give you, they're going to be legal and business strategy and all of that. But we're doing it so that we can prevent problems because it is cheaper, easier, and just better and less stressful to prevent problems and try to clean them up later on. I am an attorney. I do business law with contracts and copyright and trademarks and all the things for business. I also have my MBA and I have run multiple businesses, including law firm, photography business, and I just know the strategies that you need. So as a business consultant, I pair that with the legal stuff for you all to be able to get the information you need to prevent the issues like I just mentioned. I'm also a wife to Army veteran, a mom of 5, cancer survivor. I compete with Team USA, and I have a little habit of binging Netflix. Now, I share that with you so you understand that I'm not just an attorney sitting in an ivory tower telling you what you need to do simply because it's the law. I'm bringing this to you because it's stuff that I want you to get under control. Use this as a checklist, go through, make them action items, set yourself deadlines so you can have the life that you want. Create the real business that you want so you can have the real life that you want. That is my end goal, and we're going to do that by preventing issues, and I'm going to make this quick and easy for you. So, of course, the fine print, because I'm an attorney, is I am a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer. This is all general information, and so just please make sure that you jot it down, do specific research for your specific state and area and circumstances. But if you do want me to be your attorney, you can reach out to me. You can either come over to TheLawTog or my firm is Eden Law. But yeah, all of this is general information. Always consult a local attorney, and I can help you find one if we don't have your state on staff with us. All right, so like I mentioned, issues. We are trying to prevent issues. And I'll tell you what, I speak at conferences. I go to Professional Photographers of America, WPPI, like Portrait Masters, you name it, right? I speak on these stages and I always have people that come up after the fact and they say, oh, hey, loved your presentation, good info, but I don't use contracts or I don't register my copyright because I've never had an issue. Friends, if I had a penny for every single time the next step that I'm about to tell you happens, I would say I wouldn't be here, but that's not true. I love helping to legally protect photography businesses, but I would definitely have more money because what happens? They hear me speak, they give the accolades, they say they don't have an issue, and in my mind, I'm thinking exactly what you see on the screen. You never have an issue until you have an issue, and then they're freaking out. They're in my inbox asking for help, and they're spending more time, money, and energy cleaning it up. So just keep that in mind here. If you're like, oh, I've been in business a while, I've never had an issue, you haven't had an issue until you have an issue. So let's dive into the basics. And the 3 that you see on the screen here are kind of like the legal protection tripod that I want you to have. One of the main goals of setting up our business is not only do we want to look at like the legally minimum requirements, right? The legal minimum requirements in your state and federally as well. And typically that is just letting the state know that you're doing business activity, what the business activity is, and getting the license, all right? That's the bare minimum that most places require. But what you see on the screen is what I'm really wanting you to look at having to help protect yourself, separate you from your business, right? So whether you're doing this part-time, you're just getting into it, or this is your full-time career, it's really incredibly important that we are a service-based business. Even though we are creating artwork, even though we are delivering products or digital files, we still are providing a service in a sense, kind of a hybrid, right? Services and products and also art. But we have liability. We are going either into clients' homes or taking them on location, or they're coming in our studio, or we're going to an event It doesn't matter what it looks like, there is potential liability with what we're doing. Sure, it's not a high risk activity unless you're maybe doing photography while your clients are skydiving, you're skydiving with them, right? That is typically what people think of when they think, oh, I need to limit liability. No, we have liability here just because we are exchanging services and products for money. There's liability with that, right? There's potential issues. So I say all that to say the three that you see on the screen are the legal tripod of what's recommended, all right? Business formation, I mentioned that the legal bare minimums in most states is just telling them that you're doing the business and getting a license, right? Whereas business formation is the creating of the legal entity. So if you've not taken any steps at all to create a limited liability company or a corporation, you are all personally attached to you. So even if you filed a trade name or doing business as license, that is still all personal liability touching you, your personal assets, everything, right? And I also hear from people, oh, I don't have personal assets. I don't have a house. I don't have a car. I don't have any of this. I just rent. I don't have any liability. I don't have any assets to touch. Not true. You have income earning potential. All right. So if there's ever a problem and you are one of those that has not set up an LLC or has not set up a corporation, everything is connected to you personally. So if there is a problem, client breaks an ankle or something happens, or just simply that you get pursued, this client may be unhappy with the photos that were delivered. It can all touch you personally, including your including your personal assets and not just business assets. So business formation, we want to look at having either an LLC or a corporation. Second one is contracts. Of course, I've been called contracts queen. Photography contracts are so incredibly important. You can use them here with Iris Works, of course, seamlessly in there. Should always be using contracts. They're another piece of this tripod that we want to have to help limit our liability, set expectations, and just keep everything on the same page. Literally the same page. And then, of course, liability insurance. There's different types of insurances, but really the basics that I'm talking about here under this legal tripod is having liability insurance. So if you're someone who has been in business for a while and has not hit all three of these, you need to go do it immediately. If you're someone just getting into business, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know where to start. You need to start with making a plan with doing exactly what we have on the screen here. And I kind of have them in priority order. Really the best practice is to have all three of these. But I understand in the beginning, it's a little difficult to try to get to the point of being able to have the money for that. So if you're running your CODB, right, your cost of doing business, go ahead and get the quotes for what the insurance is going to be, the contracts are going to be. And which, by the way, at TheLawTog, we have them. They are way more inexpensive than having to get custom drafted from an attorney, which I am an attorney, but like custom one-to-one. But they're also coming from someone, me, who is in the photography industry. But then also getting a quote for like business formation for in your state as well. Put that into your cost of doing business, even if you're not yet ready to make that expenditure in these protections. That way you can have the money ready to go. All right. So that was just all like the legal protection, the legal basics of liability, limiting liability for you personally, right? The legal tripod we talked about. But oftentimes many photographers stop there. And which is great, right? Like, I think it's good if you do those items. Not great that you stop there. You know what I mean? I think it's awesome that you guys take those steps in order to be able to protect yourself. But that's just kind of the liability side of things. We also want to consider our forward-facing brand, our marketing that we're putting out there, because we're doing all this work to create our photography, to develop our clients, to get referrals. But I see it time and time again that what you're seeing on the screen here of protecting your brand, people don't take the steps. Photographers are not taking the steps to do this. And I get it, because we're juggling all the balls, wearing all the hats, but they don't protect their brand in a way. And I'm going to walk you guys through the steps. And then all of a sudden, someone from across the US pops up with the same or similar name. There becomes confusion, right? Maybe I'm in Florida and I'm Crystal Clear Photography. And then there's a Crystal Clear Photography that pops up in California. But the California one is poor business person. She's taking money and she's not delivering. Well, on Google, people are just going to look up Crystal Clear Photography. They're not going to really pay attention. That negative publicity, that negative reputation could be attributed to you. Right? So that's a negative. Another negative of not having your own distinct business name is that when there are so many in existence, you don't become the go-to. Think about TheLawTog. we are the go-to legal resource for photographers. I created the name. I don't necessarily love it, but it's distinct. It tells you off the bat exactly what it is, photography and law, and nobody else can have that because I've taken the steps to protect the brand. It allows for when you guys think of contracts or copyright pursuit, you think of TheLawTog. And that's kind of the same thing that you want to do in your marketing. Trust me, this legal step right here will save you and help you in your marketing. It will save time, money, and energy, and it will help to further your marketing, but it also gives you legal protection, right? So when we're looking at our business name, our logo, or maybe if we have our packages names and our slogans, then we want to make sure that we choose a name that's unique. And we also want to make sure that we're doing proper searches, all right? So I combine those two here for you because often the big question is, do I use my name or do I use a made-up name, right? A trade name, so to speak. Now, I go back and forth on this. I was just in a conversation with some photographers yesterday about this in our in my coaching group that I have, and they asked, "Well, what do we do? I'm an artist. I want my name on there." But I'm like, "But if your name is Angela Jones, we can't trademark Angela Jones and keep every other Angela Jones photography from using their real name, right?" So a good in between, if you're wanting to connect your name to it, is to pick a photography name and then attach your name to it. For example, and this is just an example, this is actually not legally protectable, but crystal clear photography. There's so many of them out there, so it's so diluted you wouldn't be able to protect it, but let's assume that we could, right? Crystal clear photography by Angela Jones. We could then protect the root of the name, and it helps to keep you as the only one that's put out there. Think about how small the internet is, right? Facebook, Twitter, all the Snap things. You just go out there and Snap things. I dated myself, but seriously, there's so many social media platforms and just good old Google and the web. When it comes up, your search engine optimization, you want to be the only one that comes up. You don't want other people to. So you want to look at making sure that the name is unique, that is legally protectable. So it's not descriptive, making sure it's not generic, make sure it's really unique. And then we want to do the proper searches. And I just kind of gave you the little checklist of it. Go through and search all the social media platforms you're going to be on. Check Google, check the trademark website, uspto.gov, check your state specific business formation portals as well. Now, keep in mind, we're looking at, because we want to protect everything, not just our state. So just setting up your LLC or corporation with like crystal clear photography is not going to protect you across the US. You would need to take the steps to get the trademark. And the third point on here is trademark issues, but I've kind of already mentioned that. I've already told you the issues that you can run into. You can get a negative reputation attached to you, or you become just one of many of the same names. And so you want to make sure that it's distinct, that it's new, that you're not using one. This is a big issue. Don't use a name that somebody else already has, because then you can then become the infringer, right? And guess what that means? If let's say a crystal clear photography in Florida became for me, and then I'm the crystal clear in California. Now, if crystal clear photography in Florida has done all the things they need to do, and I start using it in California, and Florida has the national protections, all the money that I made while using the crystal clear photography name, I would have to pay, plus attorney's fees, which, friends, attorney's fees are a lot. I'd have to pay that to the Florida one. We don't want to do that. That's not worth it. You're taking time, money, and energy away from growing your photography business, all right? Choose a name that's unique. Do the proper searches, make sure there's no one else in existence, and go and register. Now, that's just trademark. I've really been just focusing on the business name, but you want to consider also with photographers, we are so unique in our business that not only do we have the intellectual property of like our name, our logo, our slogan, and all that sort of stuff, but we also have copyright in our works. We are delivering intellectual property, our digital files, or even our printed work. So we want to take the steps at looking copywriting those, because one of the top issues that I see that photographers have outside of contracts and not having contracts in place, or having lawyer drafted contracts in place and not consistently using them, not consistently updating them. By the way, you can take a pause. That little like 4 points that I just gave you is a quick checklist of what you need to do with contracts. But outside of those problems, one of the biggest issues that photographers are facing is infringement. People are taking photos and they're utilizing it for commercial gain, and photographers are basically being used. They are being used for free. So you want to take the steps to register the copyright. You want to take the steps to pursue, because it is our livelihood, right? And it's not typically your clients that are going to do it. It's going to be unrelated third parties. And that's why copyright registration is so incredibly important. And I already mentioned, I jumped the gun a little bit here of protecting your brand, doing the searches. So that's really for like business names, Google, social media, USPTO.gov, and state corporations portal as well. And the trademark formula, I already mentioned this a little bit, but we want to have a unique name plus same or similar product or service. So say, for example, I am Crystal Clear. That's the name of my business, Crystal Clear. And I'm a photography business. But then we have like Crystal Clear Winery. That's okay. We can coexist because a winery and photography services are not going to be confused by the general public, right? You run into a problem when you have photography services or videography services or anything closely related to it using a same or similar name. So again, use a name that's unique, proper searches, check the issues, and do the registration. Now, just a little bit more on the copyright, getting registrations done for your photographs, very specifically. We need to register them before infringement happens. So you can't just sit on your hands and be like, oh, I don't care about registration. I don't see the value in it. And then when a major corporation, which by the way, if you want a list of the major corporations that I've represented individual photographers like you against when their photographs have been stolen, because it's when, not if. Remember, you never have an issue till you have an issue. And when it comes to infringement, it's when it happens, not if. There's a list of it on my website. You can see major corporations, household names, things that you probably went and shopped today, or if not this week. And it happens. And so we want to make sure that we are registering ahead of time. Sure, we have copyright at the time that we create the photo, generally speaking, but registration just gives us a bit more teeth to the argument. We're then looking at attorney's fees. We're looking at statutory damages versus just actual, right? This video is too short for me really to go into the nuances of it. I do have more copyright info at TheLawTog, and I'm happy to help consult with you on that. Just keep in mind, this is a quick checklist item that I want you to take serious, because when your photograph gets infringed, we have to have the hard argument of, are you willing to spend the money to pursue when you don't have registration, so you're looking at less damages? And I hate having that conversation because it sucks. You should get paid for your hard work. And we still can often for unregistered photographs, but it's just a better situation when you have the registration in hand. So on the protection of your brand, remember trademark for name, and then we're looking at copyright for our photos. Generally are the two major hot items here for you. And there's just another screen for you. You can take a cap of that. I just outlined the difference between the two, unregistered and registered. And so please don't waste all the time and effort that you've put into your branding. Please do it right the first time. And I have put this presentation in order, especially if you're a new photographer, of how I want you to approach it. So we want to do that, the business basics of the liability protection, get that business formation, contracts, and liability insurance under control, and then move into this situation of making sure that we're protecting our brand with our business name and registering of our photographs, because you're putting a lot of time, money, and energy. And I keep saying that over and over and over, but because that's why it's so incredibly important for this legal stuff, is it's not just time that you're putting into business, it's time you're taking away from your family, yourself, and your life. Money, we're trying to make money, right? We're in business. Doesn't matter if we love it. I mean, it does matter if we love it, but you know what I mean? Like business, we're in business for profit. And because that profit helps to impact. When we have money, we can impact. We can provide for ourselves, provide for our family, provide and help our community, right? So time, money, and then energy. That is a big underestimated currency, if you will, that is not often discussed when it comes to business, especially in legal. And here, if you think about it with branding, you're going to spend the majority of your time working with your clients. You're actually going to spend more time marketing and cultivating the client relationships than you are actually doing the photography, than you are actually doing the processing. So don't waste that branding and marketing steam. Do all this protection right the first time, because I really hate when I see photographers have to rebrand and they lose all that marketing steam. You may have worked so well in your local area to become the go-to, but then because you didn't do the proper trademark searches, you got to turn around and rebrand. Then you're having to spend more time, money, and energy rebranding. So let's not do it, okay? Here's the legal ways that can help avoid having to waste all that time, money, and energy again. All right, so communications and expectations. This is looping kind of back around to contracts here. And actually all of our communications are not just contracts. That's just one piece, right? We're gonna, in our legal workflow, we're gonna have contracts, you're gonna have frequently asked questions maybe on your website, you're gonna have the communications with clients, but having your contracts in place, these are incredibly important that we wanna make sure that we have under control, because these are the main source of what we're trying to focus our clients on. It provides you, as you see on the screen, provides legal expectations. Provides legal protection while also simultaneously setting expectations. All right. Whenever, you got to imagine this. Anytime a client comes to you, they may have or may have not ever gone to another photographer before. So even if they've gone to a photographer before, you may do it completely different than somebody else, right? And so you need to reset the expectations, re-communicate, and educate the client on your business practices and your policies. And it also sets boundaries in the same way too. It's like letting clients know what they're going to get, when they're going to get it, how much they need to pay, what happens if they don't pay, what happens if they're late, what happens if they reschedule, if reschedules are allowed, all those sort of things. We want to settle all communications into one central contract, which is typically going to be your services photography contract, so that everyone is literally on the same page. And so we also want to consider that contracts can be what I call the no man, right? Oftentimes clients will ask questions, whether they're trying to push boundaries or they simply don't know. It's on us to set the boundaries. It's on us to say no if we're not wanting to give extra files or more time or extra edits. And that's where your contract can come in play. You can point to the contract as the no man. Now, stick with me. You read this on the screen, but I truly believe if you're not using legal documents, it kind of shows you don't care about your business. And I know that sounds harsh, but stick with me. I really do say this with love. And I'm stumbling because I don't want you to think, oh, she's just a lawyer, that's why she's saying it. Love your business. Pour into your business. Love your clients. And by using contracts, we already talked about how it's a liability protection tool for you, but you're also showing care and love to your clients. Because think about it this way, especially if your ideal client is someone that, for me, for a long time, and it still is, my client avatar, my ideal client is someone who is a career professional, probably with children in school age, and she's busy. She doesn't have time to play 500 questions. And I have gotten to a point, basically it's me, right? My client is me. And I know that when I go to book somebody, I can tell a photographer or the service provider cares about me as a client, values me as a client, if they don't make me have to ask 500 questions, if they don't have to tell me how to get booked, they don't have to tell me, I don't have to ask, as the client, I don't have to be saying, how do I book? How do I send you money? Where do I send the money? When do I send the money by? How long is the session? All the top questions, all of this can be put into the contract, and it should be, right? So legal protection was like the first thing, but if you can see all the reasons why to have contracts in place, it will really incredibly help you not only to increase the confidence in your client, right? That client's going to have more confidence in you. It's going to show the client that you care about them and value them as a client. It's also going to reduce the time that you put into having to answer the same questions over and over, for the most part, right? So we want to have the legal documents. And that's what I mean by not using legal contracts can come across as you don't really care, because legal protection is not just for you, it's for the clients, and it's also for giving this information so they feel comfortable and even more confident in the decision to book you as their photographer. So legal document tips, always have them lawyer drafted, always put them in writing. Of course, we want to do that. Should be using digital signatures. And the reason I say this here is we want to set up the process so that we're giving all this information, all getting on the same page before we ever take any money. All right. So what you want to use is like an online system like IrisWorks, have the contract be sent first, because we want them, the clients, ask questions before they ever give us any money, because then it becomes convoluted. We have to go into refunds. We're not sure if we should refund. We don't know if they're still a client. Always use digital signatures. And also, never auto countersign. What I mean by this is when you're using an online contract signing system, you don't want it to have to send the contract and the client to sign it and you auto countersign. It would be preferential if you were, especially if you have fill in the blank, is really where this is most important, is you don't want to have the client fill something in, X something out, and then you have it auto countersign, and then you're legally bound to it. All right. So maybe if you're in a situation where there's nothing for the client to select, they're just simply signing, that would be fine, right? Because then there's no ambiguities about what may have been changed, or if client has any questions or client did any notes on it, right? Which brings me to the last point, and the never send an editable document. Meaning don't send them a Word doc or a PDF that can be signed. And so we want, because we don't really, we want them to ask questions, them being the clients. We want clients to ask questions before they ever sign anything. We want to be able, if you're going to negotiate anything or if you need to explain something, we don't want to leave it open for the client just to go in and be able to edit it and then send it back, because then it's an awkward situation of you having to figure it out. Maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't see it, and we just want to make it as clean and easy as possible. All right, so that was a lot of information. Quick recap before we get into this, and is that one, we want liability protection. We want to make sure we have the business formation. We want to have the contracts and the insurance, liability insurance. Then phase 2 is protecting of your brand. That is making sure that your business name's on lock, and also we're registering our photos. And then of course, we did a deeper dive into contracts of how you want to, best practices, how to use it. And I think the biggest takeaway here is please, please, please go to an attorney, whether it's myself, TheLawTog, or I can help you find someone. Setting yourself up right from the beginning, I've said it ad nauseum, will save you time, money, and energy. So as you can see on the screen, feel free to follow me. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. I am happy to help you. I so much want photographers to succeed. I want you to succeed. I know you can, but we have to have that legal piece of the puzzle taken care of. Good luck.